While husband was walking his secret daughter down the aisle, his wife was identifying their son's body at the morgue. Her FBI director. Father made sure he'd never walk free again. Chapter 1. The call. The phone rang at 10:17 on a Saturday morning. Colleen Ashford was standing in her kitchen, slicing tomatoes for her son's graduation dinner. In 3 weeks, Bryce would walk across the stage at State University, collect his diploma, and officially become a college graduate. She had been planning this celebration for months. She almost ignored the call. The number was unfamiliar, and she assumed it was another spam caller trying to sell her an extended car warranty. Something made her answer anyway. Mrs. Ashford. The voice on the other end was professional, but urgent. This is St. Michael's Hospital. There's been an accident involving your son. We need you to come immediately. The knife slipped from Colleen's fingers and clattered against the cutting board. What happened? Is Bryce okay? He's in surgery right now. Please come as quickly as you can. Colleen's hands trembled as she grabbed her keys. She tried calling her husband, Warren. The phone rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. A 3rd time. Nothing. Value lesson. Beginning. Here is the first truth this story will teach you when you try to reach someone 37 times and they never answer. The silence is already telling you everything you need to know. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. The people who truly love you will always find a way to answer your call. Call to action. If you have ever felt invisible in your own marriage, if you have ever wondered why your partner always seems distracted, if you have ever felt that something was not quite right but could not put your finger on it, this story is for you. Stay until the end, because what this wife discovers will change everything you think you know about trust, betrayal, and the power of family. Colleen drove to the hospital in 17 minutes. She did not remember a single traffic light. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and fear. A nurse in blue scrubs approached her with a clipboard. Mrs. Ashford, your son has internal bleeding. His spleen has ruptured. There's swelling in his brain. We need you to sign these consent forms for additional surgery. Colleen signed with shaking hands. The pen felt impossibly heavy. She tried Warren again. 11 calls now, all unanswered. Her younger son, Garrett, arrived 20 minutes later. He was 18, still in high school, and his face was white with terror. Mom, what's happening? Bryce was in a car accident. He's in surgery. Where's Dad? Colleen looked at her phone. 12 missed calls to Warren, 0 responses. I don't know, she whispered. They waited together for 3 hours. Colleen counted every minute. She sent text messages describing the severity of the situation. She left voicemails begging Warren to call back. Nothing. At 1:47 in the afternoon, a doctor emerged from the surgical wing. His scrubs were stained with blood. His face told Colleen everything before his mouth formed the words. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Ashford. We did everything we could. Bryce was dead. Colleen felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. Garrett caught her before she collapsed. She screamed a sound that did not seem to come from her own body. Her phone remained silent. Warren had not called back once. A nurse approached hesitantly. Mrs. Ashford, I'm so sorry, but there are procedures. Someone needs to identify the body officially. Is your husband coming? Colleen looked at her phone. 23 calls to Warren. 0 responses. No, she said, her voice hollow. I don't think he is. Chapter 2. The Identification. The walk to the morgue took forever and no time at all. Colleen moved through fluorescent-lit hallways that smelled of antiseptic and something else. Something cold. Something final. Garrett walked beside her, gripping her hand so tightly her fingers went numb. A hospital administrator explained the process in a gentle voice. They would show her the body through a window first. If she confirmed the identity, there would be paperwork, decisions about arrangements. The word arrangements hit her like a physical blow. They reached a door. The administrator paused. "Take all the time you need. Mrs. Ashford." The sheet was white. The body beneath it was still. A technician carefully folded the sheet back to reveal a face. It was Bryce, her firstborn, the baby she had held 21 years ago, counting his fingers and toes, the toddler who called her mommy with such fierce adoration, the teenager who hugged her on Mother's Day and said she was the best mom in the world. "That's my son," Colleen said. The words tasted like broken glass. "That's Bryce Warren Ashford." She did not realize she was crying until Garrett pulled her into his arms. Her 18-year-old son held her while she sobbed against his shoulder. Her phone rang. She fumbled for it desperately, hoping Warren had finally called. Instead, she saw her father's name, Franklin Mercer. "Colleen?" Her father's voice was steady and controlled. "I just heard. I'm catching the first flight from Washington. I'll be there in 4 hours. Dad." She could barely speak. "Dad, Bryce's—" "I know, sweetheart. I know. Warren won't answer his phone. I've called him 30 times. Where is he?" A long pause. Too long. "Colleen, I need you to listen carefully. Don't try to reach Warren again. Don't leave any more messages. Do you understand? Why, Dad? What's going on?" "I'll explain everything when I get there. For now, stay with Garrett. Call your mother. She's already on her way to the airport with me." The call ended. Something in her father's voice made Colleen's blood run cold. She called Warren one more time. Voicemail. She did not leave a message. Instead, she opened Facebook on her phone. Some instinct drove her fingers. She searched Warren's name. His profile appeared. Someone named Melody Thornton had shared a photo and tagged Warren Ashford. The photo showed Warren in a tuxedo, his arm around a young woman in a white wedding dress. They were standing under a flower-covered arch. Warren was beaming with a smile Colleen had not seen in years. The caption read, "The happiest day of my life. Thank you, Daddy, for walking me down the aisle, 24 years of waiting, and it was worth every moment." Colleen's vision blurred. She read the caption again, and again, 24 years, Daddy, walking her down the aisle. Warren had a daughter. Warren had a 24-year-old daughter. Warren was at that daughter's wedding while their son was dying. Warren rejected her calls because he was walking his secret daughter down the aisle while Bryce bled out on an operating table. Colleen dropped the phone. It clattered against the morgue floor, the screen cracking, but still displaying that photo. Garrett picked up the cracked phone. He saw the photo. His face went pale, then red, then something beyond rage. "Mom," he said quietly. "Who is that woman with Dad?" Chapter 3. The secret family. Colleen could not answer Garrett's question. She did not have words for what she had just discovered. The drive home was silent. Garrett drove because her hands would not stop shaking. The house looked different now, foreign, like it belonged to someone else's life. Inside, Colleen sat at the kitchen table where she had been preparing Bryce's graduation dinner just hours ago. The vegetables she was chopping were still on the cutting board. The roast was still in the refrigerator. Garrett had been searching on his phone. His face was ashen. "Mom, there's more." He showed her an Instagram account, Melody Thornton. The profile was public, filled with hundreds of photos spanning years. Colleen scrolled through them. Her husband appeared in dozens of images: birthday parties, Christmases, vacations, high school graduation, college move-in day, family dinners at restaurants Colleen had never been to. There were photos from just last month. Warren and Melody at a restaurant, captioned, Daddy-Daughter Date Night. There were photos from Bryce's birthday last year, the same day Warren said he had a business conference in Chicago. 24 years of photos, 24 years of a parallel life. Colleen's marriage was 26 years old. Warren started his affair before their second anniversary. A woman appeared throughout the photos. Denise Thornton. She was attractive, well-dressed, always smiling. In several photos, she and Warren were together, looking like a couple, looking like a family. Value lesson. Middle. Here's the second truth this story will teach you. Financial independence is not optional. It is survival. Colleen had trusted Warren completely with their money. She never questioned the business trips. She never examined the accounts. For 24 years, Warren siphoned $3 million to his secret family, while Colleen remained blind. Know your finances. Understand where every dollar goes. Ask questions, even when they feel uncomfortable. Your future self will thank you. Colleen realized she was making a low, keening noise she could not control. Mom, breathe. She could not breathe. Her entire marriage had been a lie. Every business trip, every late night at the office, every conference call that ran long. Warren was not working. He was with them, with her, with their daughter. Their daughter got Warren's presents while Bryce got nothing. Not even a returned phone call. Not even a text message. Bryce died waiting for his father, and his father was too busy dancing at another woman's wedding to answer the phone. Something broke inside Colleen Ashford. Something else, something harder, colder, more dangerous began to form in its place. The front door opened. Colleen's mother, Patricia, walked in, still in her traveling clothes. Franklin called me from the plane, Patricia said. He told me what he found. You knew? No, sweetheart. Not until today. But your father has access to information. The rest of us don't. When you couldn't reach Warren, he started making calls. He found everything. Everything. Patricia's jaw tightened. Denise Thornton has been Warren's mistress for 24 years. He's been paying for everything: her house, her car, Melody's private school and college tuition. He set up trust funds. He's been living a complete double life. How much? Over the years, your father estimates close to $3 million. $3 million from their joint accounts, from their retirement savings, from funds that should have gone to Bryce and Garrett's futures. There's more, Patricia said quietly. Franklin found out why Warren didn't answer his phone today. Warren blocked your number this morning, temporarily, so he wouldn't be interrupted during the wedding. As if on cue, Colleen's phone lit up. Warren's name flashed on the screen. She watched it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it went to voicemail. Now he calls. Now, when it was too late. Now, when their son was lying in a morgue and their marriage was lying in ruins. The phone rang again. Colleen picked it up. Her voice was utterly calm. Our son is dead. Warren. Bryce is dead. He died while you were at your other daughter's wedding. And when my father lands in 3 hours, I'd suggest you start running. Chapter 4. The Father Arrives. The silence on the other end of the phone stretched for 30 seconds. Colleen? Warren's voice was strangled. Colleen, what are you talking about? What happened to Bryce? You would know if you'd answered any of my 37 calls. He was in a car accident at 10:14 this morning. He was in surgery for 3 hours. He died at 1:47. I identified his body alone. While you were walking your secret daughter down the aisle. Oh God, oh my God, don't come home. Warren. Colleen, please, I need to. I said don't come home. She ended the call. 3 hours later, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Franklin Mercer emerged, 72 years old, silver-haired, ramrod straight. He was wearing a suit, as always. Franklin walked into the house and straight to his daughter. He took her face in his hands. I'm here, he said simply, and no one is ever going to hurt you like this again. Colleen broke down in her father's arms. For the first time since Bryce died, she allowed herself to truly sob. When she finally pulled away, his eyes were wet too, but his voice was steady. I've already started the investigation, unofficially, through channels I trust. Warren has been systematically defrauding you for over 2 decades. The money he funneled to his other family, that's theft. Colleen, I don't care about the money right now, Dad. I know you don't. But the money is evidence, and evidence is how we build a case, Garrett asked. A case for what? Franklin looked at his grandson. A case for everything. Financial fraud, tax evasion, and depending on what we find, possibly more. What do you mean, more? Franklin was quiet for a moment. The accident that killed Bryce. The preliminary report says another driver ran a red light, hit Bryce's car on the driver's side at approximately 50 miles per hour. The other driver fled the scene. But there were traffic cameras. The driver has been identified. He paused. His name is Marcus Webb. He's the brother of Denise Thornton. The room went silent. He was at the wedding this morning. He left early, around 10 o'clock. He was driving fast. Witnesses said he seemed agitated. He ran the light 12 minutes later, hit Bryce, kept driving. Colleen could not breathe. Are you saying? I'm saying Marcus Webb was drunk at the wedding. Multiple witnesses confirm he was drinking heavily. He drove away from that wedding intoxicated. And 12 minutes later, he killed your son. Colleen looked at her father, the man who spent 40 years putting criminals behind bars, the man who rose to become director of the FBI through brilliance and relentless pursuit of justice. What do we do now? Franklin Mercer's eyes were cold. Now we find out just how deep this goes, and then we make sure Warren Ashford and everyone connected to him pays for every single thing they've done to this family. Chapter 5. The investigation deepens over the next 72 hours. Franklin Mercer worked with surgical precision. He called in favors from a 40-year career, former colleagues in financial crimes, investigators who owed him their careers, prosecutors who remembered the cases he helped them win. The information flowed in. Warren Ashford's financial records painted a picture of methodical deception. He maintained 3 separate accounts that Colleen never knew about. Monthly transfers to Denise Thornton totaling $8,000, tuition payments, a down payment on a house, car loans, credit cards, Douglas Whitfield. Warren's business partner of 15 years agreed to meet with Colleen. I should have told you years ago, Douglas said. His hands shook around his coffee cup. I knew about Denise, about Melody. Warren brought me into the secret when Melody was 8 years old. He needed someone to cover for him during his business trips. Why didn't you say anything? He threatened me. Said he'd ruin my reputation, accuse me of embezzlement. Douglas wiped his eyes. I have kids too. Colleen. I was afraid. Tell me everything. Douglas talked for 2 hours. He described the elaborate system of lies Warren maintained, the fake business trips that were actually family vacations with Denise and Melody, the offshore account where Warren hid money, and he told her about Marcus Webb, Denise's younger brother, unemployed, alcoholic, angry. Marcus hated Warren, Douglas said. The night before the wedding, they had a screaming match at the rehearsal dinner. What about money? Marcus wanted Warren to give him a job. Warren refused, said Marcus was a liability. Marcus said something about making Warren pay. Universal dilemma. Moment 25%. Mark Colleen stared at the Instagram account. 24 years of photos. Her husband had been living a complete second life since before their oldest son was born. How had she missed it? She thought about every business trip, every late night, every conference call that ran long. The signs had been there. Maybe they had always been there. But here's the thing about trust when you love someone completely. You don't look for evidence of betrayal. You look for reasons to keep believing. She had trusted Warren with her heart, her home, her children's futures, and he had used that trust as a weapon against her. If you have ever discovered that someone you loved was not who they claimed to be, you understand this moment. You understand the vertigo of realizing your entire reality was built on sand. That night, Warren showed up at the house. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red, suit wrinkled. Garrett was blocking the door. Let me see your mother, Warren said. She doesn't want to see you. Garrett, please, I need to explain. Explain what? Explain how you missed 37 calls while Bryce was dying. Explain how you have another daughter. Explain how your drunk brother-in-law killed my brother. Warren's face went white. What did you say? Marcus Webb, Denise's brother. He ran the red light that killed Bryce. He was at your other daughter's wedding. He was drunk because he was angry at you. Garrett stepped closer. Bryce is dead because of you. Because of your lies. Get off our property. Franklin Mercer's voice came from behind Garrett. Warren looked at Franklin. Something passed between them, recognition of power, of threat, of what was coming. He turned and walked away. Franklin watched him go. He'll lawyer up by morning. The easy path is closed to him now. But the hard path is just beginning. Chapter 6, The Funeral. Bryce Ashford was buried on a Thursday. The sky was gray, threatening rain that never came. The church was packed. Bryce had friends, so many friends, college roommates, high school teammates, professors who wrote letters describing his brilliance. Colleen sat in the front pew with Garrett on one side and her parents on the other. Warren was not there. Colleen's attorney sent him a letter. His presence would not be welcome. She expected him to show up anyway, to make a scene, to claim his right as Bryce's father. He did not come. Later, she learned why. Franklin's people delivered a message if Warren appeared at the funeral. Certain financial records would be leaked to the press by the end of the day. Warren chose self-preservation over saying goodbye to his son. Of course he did. The service was beautiful. Bryce's friends spoke about his kindness, his humor, his dreams. One young woman read a poem he wrote for her birthday. It was about hope, about futures, about the life he planned to build. Colleen listened and felt herself splitting in two. One half grieved for her son. The other half burned with rage at the man who should be there and was not. After the service, a woman approached whom Colleen did not recognize, mid-40s, well-dressed, nervous. Mrs. Ashford, I'm so sorry for your loss. My name is Rebecca Webb. I'm Marcus's wife. Colleen froze. I know I shouldn't be here, Rebecca continued. But I needed you to know I had no idea what Marcus did. He came home that day and didn't say a word. I only found out when the police came. Why are you telling me this? Because Marcus isn't a monster. He's sick. He's an alcoholic. He needs help, not prison. Something snapped in Colleen. Your husband ran a red light while drunk. He hit my son's car at 50 miles per hour. He didn't stop. He didn't call for help. He drove away and let my son bleed out on the pavement. I know, and I'm so... Your husband was at my husband's secret daughter's wedding. Did you know about that? Did you know your brother-in-law has been living a double life for 24 years? Rebecca's face went pale. What? My son is dead because my husband couldn't keep it in his pants for 24 years. My son is dead because your husband couldn't stay sober. My son is dead because everyone in this sick, twisted secret family cared more about money and pride and lies than about doing the right thing. Rebecca backed away, tears streaming down her face. She turned and half ran toward the parking lot. Colleen watched her go. She felt her mother's hand on her arm. That wasn't fair, Patricia murmured. No. Colleen agreed. It wasn't, but it was true. And I'm done pretending any of this is fair. Chapter 7. The Evidence Mounts. 3 weeks after the funeral, Franklin Mercer presented Colleen with a folder. This is everything: financial records, phone logs, email archives, witness statements, everything we need to destroy Warren Ashford, legally and completely. Colleen took the folder. It was thick, hundreds of pages. The financial crimes were extensive. Warren used company funds to support his second family, then doctored the books to hide it. That was embezzlement. He failed to report over $2 million in income to the IRS. That was tax fraud. He forged Colleen's signature on loan documents. That was forgery. But the most damaging evidence was personal. Franklin had obtained Warren's private emails with Denise, 24 years of correspondence, and one email from 6 months ago that made Colleen's blood run cold. Warren wrote, I've made my decision. After Melody's wedding, I'm leaving Colleen. The boys are grown now. It's time we stopped hiding. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and our daughter openly. He was going to leave her. After Melody's wedding, he planned to end their marriage and go public with his other family. He did not want Colleen. He did not want their sons. He wanted Denise and Melody. He had always wanted them more. There's something else, Franklin said carefully. About the accident. Colleen looked up. The night before the wedding. Marcus and Warren had their argument. What Douglas told you was true. But Warren said something specific during that argument. He told Marcus that the Ashford family had plenty of insurance, and that if Marcus wanted money so badly, he should find another way to get it. Colleen stared at her father. What are you saying? Warren's life insurance policy on Bryce was worth $2 million. He took it out 3 years ago. The beneficiary was Warren himself, not you. I didn't know about that policy. No, it was hidden in the same offshore accounts he used to fund his other family. Franklin closed the folder. I don't believe Warren planned to have Bryce killed, but he was careless. He was reckless. He treated his son's life like just another asset to be leveraged. Shared experience moment 55% mark. Colleen did what every woman does when her world shatters. She held it together for her child. She answered Garrett's questions calmly. She made decisions about funeral arrangements. She met with lawyers and accepted condolences and remembered to eat only because her mother put food in front of her. At night, alone in her bed, she fell apart, but during the day, she wore the mask of competence that mothers learn to wear. The mask that says, "I've got this," when you're really thinking, "I don't know how to survive this." If you have ever held yourself together in public while falling apart in private, you know this feeling. You know the strength it takes to keep standing when everything inside you wants to collapse. This is what women do. We survive. We endure. We find the strength to take one more step, even when we cannot see the path ahead. Can we prove any of this? Colleen asked. Prove beyond reasonable doubt, no. But we don't need criminal conviction to destroy him. We just need the divorce court to see who he really is. Colleen looked at the folder in her hands. I want him to lose everything, she said quietly. I want him to know what it feels like to have your whole life ripped away. Franklin nodded. Then let's begin. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. The meeting took place in a conference room at Franklin's attorney's office. Colleen sat on one side of the table with her legal team, 3 lawyers, including a former federal prosecutor who specialized in financial crimes. Warren sat on the other side with his own attorneys. He had lost weight. His suit hung loose. His eyes were hollow. Good, Colleen thought. Let him suffer. Let's be clear about what we're proposing. Colleen's lead attorney began. Mrs. Ashford is seeking a divorce on grounds of adultery, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. She is seeking full ownership of all marital assets, including the family home, all investment accounts, and Mr. Ashford's business interests. Warren's attorney scoffed. That's absurd. In this state, marital assets are divided equitably. Mr. Ashford is entitled to... Mr. Ashford is entitled to nothing. The attorney slid a folder across the table. This is a summary of your client's financial crimes. Embezzlement, tax fraud totaling over $800,000. Forgery of his wife's signature on multiple loan documents. Warren's attorney opened the folder. His face went gray. If we file this in civil court as part of the divorce proceedings, it becomes public record. The IRS will certainly be interested, as will the SEC, and the media. She paused. The media loves a story about a wealthy man who abandoned his dying son to attend his secret daughter's wedding. Warren spoke for the first time. Colleen, please. This doesn't have to be public. Think of Garrett. Don't you dare. Colleen's voice was ice. Don't you dare use our son to manipulate me. You lost the right to invoke our children when you blocked my calls while Bryce was dying. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. You turned off your phone. You rejected my calls. You chose your other daughter over your dying son. Colleen leaned forward. Bryce called for you. Warren, in the ambulance. He kept asking for his dad. And you weren't there. Warren's face crumpled. She did not care. Here's what's going to happen. Franklin spoke for the first time. You're going to sign over everything to my daughter. The house, the accounts, the business, everything. I can't. Your business partners have already been contacted. Douglas Whitfield is prepared to buy you out at fair market value. The funds will go directly to Colleen. That's my life's work. Your life's work is built on fraud and lies. Franklin's voice was calm. You have a choice. Sign the agreement and walk away with your freedom. Fight us, and I promise you, you will lose everything anyway. And you'll do it from inside a federal prison. Warren looked at his attorney. The attorney would not meet his eyes. There's one more thing, Franklin added. Marcus Webb's trial begins next month. You're going to testify. You're going to tell the jury about your argument with him at the rehearsal dinner, about your insurance comment, about everything. If I testify to that, I'll look like the man who contributed to your own son's death, yes. That's exactly how you'll look. That's the point. You'll spend the rest of your life knowing that everyone who knew Bryce knows exactly what kind of father you were. Warren stared at the papers in front of him, the divorce agreement, the settlement terms, the end of everything he built. Slowly, he picked up the pen. His hand shook as he signed. Chapter 9. The trial, Marcus Webb's trial, lasted 2 weeks. Colleen attended every day. She sat in the front row, directly behind the prosecutor. She wanted Marcus to see her face every time he looked at the gallery. The evidence was overwhelming. Traffic camera footage showed Marcus running the red light at 47 miles per hour. Blood tests showed a blood alcohol level of 0.13, well over the legal limit. Marcus's defense attorney tried to paint him as a victim, an alcoholic who lost control, a man failed by a system that did not get him help. Then Warren took the stand. He had aged since the divorce was finalized 2 months ago. He lost the house, the business, everything. He was living in a small apartment now, working as a consultant. The prosecutor walked him through the events of the wedding day, his secret family, his relationship with Denise, his argument with Marcus. Mr. Ashford, during your argument with Mr. Webb, did you mention your life insurance policies? Warren swallowed. Yes. What did you say specifically? I said the Ashford family had plenty of insurance, that if Marcus wanted money, he should find another way to get it. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Did you intend that as a suggestion that Mr. Webb could profit from harming your family? No, I just meant I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. The prosecutor turned to the jury. Marcus Webb made the choice to drink that morning. He made the choice to get behind the wheel. He made the choice to run that red light. But he made those choices in a context of anger, desperation, and perhaps suggestion. She pointed at Warren. This man, through 24 years of lies and manipulation, created the circumstances that led to Bryce Ashford's death. Marcus Webb is responsible for what he did. But Warren Ashford's hands are not clean. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They returned with a verdict of guilty on all counts. Marcus Webb was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Warren would not go to prison, but his name had been destroyed in open court. Every newspaper in the state ran the story. The man who abandoned his dying son for his secret daughter's wedding. The man who suggested insurance money to a drunk. He would spend the rest of his life carrying that reputation. Franklin had been right. He would never walk free again, not because of prison bars, but because of the prison of public shame. Colleen walked out of the courthouse into afternoon sunlight. It's over, Patricia said softly. No, Colleen replied. It's never going to be over, but at least now there's been some accountability. Chapter 10. The New Beginning. 1 year later, the garden had been Colleen's therapy. Where the guest cottage used to stand, there was now a memorial garden for Bryce, native flowers, a small fountain, a bench with a plaque, for Bryce Warren Ashford, forever loved, forever missed. Colleen sat on that bench now, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. Garrett emerged from the house with 2 cups of coffee. He had changed this year, not just older, but more serious. He had deferred his college admission to stay home with his mother. Next fall, He would start at the university Bryce was supposed to graduate from. He was going to study criminal justice. Like Grandpa, he said, "Mom, you okay?" "I'm okay. Just thinking." About Bryce. About everything. About how different things could have been. Value lesson. End. Here is the final truth this story will teach you. Forgiveness is not about the person who wronged you. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of hatred. Colleen never forgave Warren. She did not owe him that. What he did was unforgivable, but she stopped letting her anger at him consume her energy. She redirected it to Garrett, to Bryce's memory, to the garden where she talked to her son under the stars. Warren did not deserve her forgiveness, but she deserved her freedom from him. This is what transformation looks like. Not forgetting, not excusing, but choosing to invest your precious energy in the people and things that matter instead of giving it to the people who tried to destroy you. Franklin and Patricia arrived for dinner. It had become a weekly tradition, Sunday dinners at Colleen's house. Over dinner, Franklin shared news. Marcus Webb filed for parole review. It was denied. Colleen nodded. She did not feel triumphant. She just felt tired. Denise moved to Florida. Patricia added, "Took Melody with her. They're starting over somewhere no one knows them." "Good," Garrett said. Warren Ashford did not go to prison, but his life had become one. The divorce took everything, his business, his reputation, his standing in the community. He lived in a studio apartment now. His former colleagues would not speak to him. His former friends had all chosen Colleen. He sent letters sometimes. Colleen read them, then threw them away. They were full of apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness. Maybe some of it was true. Colleen did not care anymore. After everyone left, Colleen returned to Bryce's garden. The moon was rising, full and bright. She sat on the bench and looked at the sky. "Hey, baby," she whispered. "It's Mom." She told him about her day, about the garden, about Garrett's college plans, about the small, ordinary things that make up a life. She told him she missed him, that she would always miss him, that there would never be a day when she did not think of him. And then she said the thing she said every night. "Sleep well, sweetheart. I love you." Wisdom moment, final 10%. Colleen Ashford lost her son to a tragedy born of her husband's decades of lies. She lost her marriage, her trust, her belief that she understood her own life, but she did not lose herself. She is still standing, still fighting, still loving, still here, and tomorrow, when the sun rises over Bryce's garden. She will be here too, tending the flowers, talking to her boy, living the life he did not get to have. This is what it means to survive betrayal. You do not let the person who hurt you define your future. You take back your power. You build something new from the ashes of what they destroyed. It is not the ending Colleen wanted, but it is her ending. And she is going to make it count. If you are going through something similar, if you have discovered lies that shattered your world, if you are grieving what you thought your life would be, know this: you are stronger than you think. The pain will not disappear, but you can learn to carry it. You can learn to build a life that honors what you lost while embracing what remains. You deserve more than survival. You deserve to thrive, and you will. The end.